Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we are talking all things healthy desserts. I am someone who used to not have a sweet tooth. Like, dessert used to be the last thing on my mind, and now before I go to bed every single night I need something sweet. I blame my boyfriend for this. He has a huge sweet tooth and it's definitely transferred over to me. But if I'm having dessert every night, I try to find healthier alternatives. No, there's nothing wrong if you want to have a bowl of ice cream or a piece of cake or a donut or whatever the case is at night, then go for it. Or in the morning, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. But just for me, I tried to find healthier alternatives to just make my body feel a little bit better about having a dessert every single night, which I truly do. I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I don't want this to come across like I'm saying like, don't be eating this every day or whatever, because that's not at all what I'm trying to do here. I just have, you know, over time curated a good list of some healthy desserts and ones that actually taste good. In this video we have 4 different desserts. We have, let me think, we have double chocolate chip zucchini bread, chocolate chip sweet potato muffins, chocolate covered dates rolled in coconut with peanut butter inside, so good. And we have chocolate chip almond flour cookies. So there's a lot in this video. They all are really good, and let's just hop right in. Starting off with a great recipe, we are making chocolate chip zucchini bread. Also, my hair is like really staticky. I don't know what's going on. But we are making such a good dessert. I'm so excited about this one. This one is probably the one that requires the most amount of ingredients, but it's still very easy. It just, hold on, this is crooked. It just requires a little bit more ingredients and a little bit more work, but I say that very lightly, not much. So we are going to get started. I'm not going to read off all the ingredients because everything will be down below. Also, if you hear like chocolate zucchini bread and you're like, what the heck, that sounds disgusting, trust me, I thought the same thing. Like, chocolate zucchini, no thanks, I don't want them together. But you don't even, oh my god, what is this? Look at this. It's so like staticky, it's like clinging to me. What I was trying to say is you don't even taste the zucchini, and you know, if you can add a vegetable in while you're eating a piece of cake, bread, whatever, then you might as well. So first thing I need to do is grate the zucchini. Okay, this hair is driving me nuts. I gotta put it up. This is like very self-explanatory, but I have my zucchini in my grater and I'm just going to grate the entire thing. That is it. Now I have all of my zucchini grated right there. Now this is super important. So you need to dry all of the zucchini. So I take some paper towels. I'm going to lift up my zucchini, put it on my paper towel, and then I'm going to pat it all dry. Let's move this over here. I like to lay it out so it's a little bit more flat. And then you need to pat all of this dry. There's tons and tons of moisture that will come out of the zucchini, but if you don't do this, then your bread is going to be way too wet and it won't cook properly. So do not skip this step. You could also do this, I think people use like cheesecloth, but I just don't have any, so use whatever you have. And that's it. So this looks strange, I know, but we have all of our shredded dry zucchini, and now let's go over to our mixing bowl. You can see that I'm obviously using my KitchenAid, but if you don't have one, then you could definitely do this by hand. It'll just take a little bit more work. But we are going to add all of our dry ingredients. So I am adding 1 cup of oat flour, and then I'm adding another 1/4 cup. I just made this by blending up oats in my blender, but you can also use regular flour or gluten-free flour. It's all up to you. I'm also adding 3/4 cups of coconut sugar. So that was 1/2. And that's 3/4. Next I'm adding 1/4 cup of raw cacao powder, and I'm adding another 1/4 cup, so 1/2 cup total. And then we have 3 teaspoons of baking powder, so that was 1, 2, and 3. Last for dry ingredients, we have 2 teaspoons of baking soda, so that is 1 and 2. Now I'm gonna lower this and let it mix. Also, yes, this is the wrong attachment. I should be using the whisk, but I'm gonna need to switch it to this one in a few minutes, so I'm just using this one. Into my mixing bowl, I'm adding 1/3 cup of melted vegan butter. You can also use coconut oil, which is what I would typically use, but I ran out. Next, I'm adding 1/3 cup of unsweetened applesauce, 1/2 cup of unsweetened dairy milk, that was coconut milk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, Now we're gonna mix. Everything is combined and I'm now adding 1 cup of the shredded zucchini, which for me is exactly 1 zucchini. And then I'm just gonna use my spatula to fold the zucchini in. Be careful, you don't wanna over mix everything. So just fold until everything is combined. All right, this is what our batter is looking like. Now I'm just gonna fold in the chocolate chips. So that was 1/3 of a cup and 2/3. Now we fold one more time. And that is it for the batter. We have our pan right here. This is an 8 by 4 pan. I believe the recipe maybe says 9 by 4, but I used this last time and it was fine. We are just going to pour our batter in. Also, I forgot to mention, I did spray this pan with non-stick cooking spray. Now I just have a little mini handful of chocolate chips. We're gonna put some on top because, duh, chocolate chips. And then we're gonna stick this in the oven at 350 degrees for 50 to 55 minutes. I just took the bread out of the oven and look at it. It looks so, so good. So mine was in for 50 minutes and it came out perfectly. I checked mine with a little toothpick just to make sure it was good. And it's perfect. I just put it on a wire rack for it to cool. I didn't want it to be sitting on the stove because the stove is still hot from the oven. And I'm going to just let this cool on the rack for a few minutes and then I'll take it out of the pan and let the bread cool in the rack, you know what I mean? And that's it. So it's so good. It's not that hard at all, as I just showed you. And like, oh, it's so good. It tastes like cake. Please try this one. Next recipe is one of my all-time faves. I love this recipe. I swear by it. I made it for a family. I've made it for my boyfriend. And it's always a hit. So these are almond flour chocolate chip cookies. They are gluten-free, which I'm not gluten-free, but they're still really good. This is not my recipe. I did get this from someone else. I found it on Renee Amberg's YouTube channel, so I will link her channel down below. All credits go to her. I don't know if it's her recipe, but that's why I found it. Now let's get to it. So I have my KitchenAid right here, but I've made this entire recipe by hand, and you can totally do that. I'm just gonna be using my KitchenAid today because it'll be easier and faster. So I just attached the wire whisk attachment to the KitchenAid, and I'm first gonna combine the coconut oil, syrup, and egg. I usually will take the coconut oil and I'll melt it for a few seconds in the microwave. It doesn't need to be completely melted, but I find that if it's softened and there's still chunks, then it kind of can leave chunks in the batter, which I just don't like. So I'm gonna go ahead and melt this in the microwave real quick. All right, I have my coconut oil in here. It's pretty hot, which is why I'm using an oven mitt. I'm gonna pour that into my stand mixer. Then I am adding my maple syrup. We have 1, 2, 3. And then I'm cracking 1 egg into the bowl. And then we mix. Okay, that is fully combined, so now we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. So I have my vanilla going in. We have 1 cup of almond flour and another. About 1/4 teaspoon of salt, so I just do a few cracks. Who knows if that's a 1/4 teaspoon, but it's good enough. And then I'm gonna do my baking soda going in. I'm gonna mix this up and then we add the chocolate chips after, so I'm gonna let this all combine. And that's it. Seriously that easy. Now we're just gonna fold in our chocolate chips, which I just do by hand. Also, just in case you're wondering, I use the Enjoy Life dark chocolate morsels. I just prefer these because they're dairy free and I like the taste of them a lot. So I'm just gonna pour some in. That is my oven that just preheated. I preheated it to 375 degrees, which I think I forgot to say in the beginning. So just so you know, we are just folding these in and then that is it. I just lined this pan with some aluminum foil just to make the cleanup process easier. And then I'm just taking the dough with my hands. I, again, just eyeball it, probably a little bit more than a tablespoon. I'm gonna do a little bit more than that. And I'll just roll it into a ball with my hand, put it on the pan, and that's it. I rolled all of them out. We made 14 cookies, so that's how many this recipe yields. And I am popping these in the oven. Again, at 375 degrees for between 8 and 15 minutes. I usually do closer to around 12. I just took the cookies out. They were in there for 12 minutes and it was perfect. The bottoms are like beautifully browned. These are gonna be so good, I promise. If there's any recipe you make out of this video, I highly recommend this one. I mean, I recommend all of them, but this one especially is really good. And I'll just store these in like a Tupperware and they're good for a while actually. You could probably also freeze these and they'd last even longer, but I usually end up finishing them before they'd go bad anyway. So you need to try these, please. You won't regret it. Next dessert that we are making are chocolate covered peanut butter dates. I guess that's what we'll call it. So you only need a few things for this. This is definitely the easiest recipe, I say recipe very loosely, of this entire video. But you need some dates. These ones are pitted. I would recommend getting pitted ones. It just makes your job, your life, this recipe easier. I also have some shredded coconut. I'm gonna dip the dates in here. You don't need this, but I think it makes it really good. I also have some chocolate chips. You can use whatever chocolate chips you like. These are just the Enjoy Life ones because they are dairy free. And some coconut oil to help melt the chocolate. And then just some peanut butter. Again, you can use whatever peanut butter you want. This one just happens to be just peanuts, like that's the only ingredient. So I like this one because it's a little bit more natural. Also, this lighting is terrible, I'm sorry. It's very late at night. I have peanut butter on my fingers, so excuse the lighting. We are going to start off by melting our chocolate chips. So I'm just gonna put some in a bowl. So I'm gonna do like that many, you can't even see. Like that, it's a pretty small bowl. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of coconut oil just because it helps the chocolate have like a smooth and nice texture. So I'm adding like that much. It's probably about between half a teaspoon and a teaspoon. And I'm just going to put that in here. And then I'm just gonna stick this in the microwave for about 10 seconds. I know that seems like not a lot, but I don't want to do too much. So I'm gonna do 10 seconds, mix it around, and keep doing intervals of 10. I might do 15 seconds, but you don't want to burn it because then it tastes extremely bitter. It's not good. While that is in the microwave, I'm going to cut some dates. So I'm only making one serving, but you can do however many you want. I'm gonna cut 3 dates. So I'm just going to take my cutting board and I'm gonna chop them in half. Hold on. I just took the chocolate out of the microwave. You can see it's starting to melt. That was 15 seconds. So I'm gonna give it a good stir and then put it back in the microwave. Okay, while that's in there, I'm gonna quickly go and chop my dates. I'm only doing 3 because it is just for me. I'm just making 1 serving, but you can of course do however many you want. Before I grab the chocolate out of the microwave, I wanna finish prepping all of this. So I have 6 halves of dates, so 3 full dates. So I am just taking the peanut butter, putting some in the middle. You can definitely choose to keep the dates, like you don't have to cut them all the way through, but I just do because it makes putting the peanut butter on easier. So I'm doing that to all 3 of my dates. So now I have all 3 of my dates ready to go. I'm gonna grab the chocolate now. This is what the chocolate looks like. It is like perfect. It's so smooth and ribbony, but it's not burnt at all, which is of course not what you want. So I'm gonna stick that right here on my cutting board. So I have my dates, my chocolate, and a plate. I'm gonna put some of the shredded coconut on my plate just so that I can roll it in the coconut when I'm done. So I'm just gonna do a little bit. Oh, you can't even see, but there's just a little bit of coconut on my plate. And I'm basically just gonna take each date, give it a good roll in the chocolate. Careful, the chocolate is probably hot, so don't burn yourself. Mine is not that hot. And then you'll put it in the coconut, give it a good roll. Your hands are definitely gonna get messy, so just a warning. And that's it. That is basically it. So those are my 3 little balls. I know these are very easy and like it wasn't much of a recipe, but they're really good and it almost tastes like a little candy bar. Oh no, they're falling, but they're really good. Highly recommend. Next recipe we are making are chocolate chip sweet potato muffins. I had to think about the name. And they are so good. I know, again, kind of like the zucchini bread, you might be like, that's so weird. Why are we making desserts with vegetables? But these are so good. If you like heat one up right before eating it, even put a little bit of butter. I use vegan butter, but you can use whatever. And oh, they're just really good. I highly recommend trying them out. So we are going to get started. Like I've said for the other recipes, I am using my KitchenAid, but you do not have to. You can totally do this by hand. We are starting off by mixing all of our dry ingredients. So I am adding my almond flour. That was 1 cup. This is 2 cups, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then we have half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I am just whisking this all together really quickly because this is just easy. And then I'll use my stand mixer in just a minute with all the other ingredients. I just transferred that dry mixture into a different bowl because we're gonna use this for all the wet ingredients. So first I'm adding my peanut butter. The recipe says almond butter, but I prefer peanut butter, so that's what I'm doing. I've done this before and it was totally fine. So we have 1 tablespoon of peanut butter going in. Move you a little bit closer. Hopefully you can see better. It's kind of hard to get like a good angle with this, but we're working with what we got. We're doing 2 eggs. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And now I'm adding my sweet potato. So you can see I have sweet potato right here. All I did to prep this was I stuck it in the oven at 400 something. I forget, I'll leave it down below. It was just 1 sweet potato. I stuck it in the oven for 45 minutes. It was perfectly cooked, and then I took it out, let it cool in the fridge, peeled it, which the skin just completely fell off, and then I mashed it with a fork. It sounds like a lot, but it was very, very easy. Again, I'll leave that all down below. But now we're adding the sweet potato. It's very sticky and like honestly feels quite gross. All right, it's all in, so I'm gonna add it to my stand mixer. And now we mix. Everything is all mixed, and now I'm slowly going to add in our dry mixture. I'm gonna add a little bit at a time. I'll put it back down and I'll mix. I just realized I forgot to add my honey, so I'm adding 2 tablespoons of honey. This is optional, but I do it. That is all combined. Now I'm adding half a cup of chocolate chips. These are vegan, but you can use whatever. And I'm mixing one last time. Okay, our batter is done. It is in here and it looks so good. It's definitely like a thicker muffin batter. It's not as runny as lots of other like muffin batters, but it's because there's obviously sweet potato in here. And then I also have my greased muffin tin. You can also use liners, but I don't have any, so this is what I'm using. And then I have this little scoop thing, so I'm gonna use this to put the batter in the muffin tins, but you can also just use a spoon, obviously. So let's do it. I just finished, so I'm sticking these in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. And they are done. They look so good. They're definitely not necessarily like the prettiest dessert. I mean, some of them have some like weird tops because I didn't flatten them out. But again, I mentioned that I'll put some butter, like vegan butter on them when I eat them, and they're just so good. Highly, highly, highly recommend, just like I've said, for every single other dessert. So that's gonna do it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed getting to see all of the different desserts that I created. No, these recipes are not all mine. I did not come up with all these recipes. I will have everything below, as I mentioned earlier in this video. If you do make any of these, please be sure to like tag me on Instagram or something. I would love to see. I think that'd be super fun. Also subscribe before you leave. We just hit 1,000 subscribers and we are making our way up to 2,000, which is really exciting. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.